Okay everyone, today's video is about sexism in gaming, particularly due to the recent launch of the Battlefield 5 reveal trailer, the global reveal, and the reactions I have seen surface in regards to its prominent feature of a female soldier both in gameplay and cinematics, as well as the cover artwork. If you don't want to watch this whole video, it basically boils down to this. There are two groups of people going at each other right now, and both of them are extremely annoying. On the one hand, there is a crowd of people on social media who are screaming at anyone and everyone who isn't preaching to high heaven about how pioneering and necessary it is to have a woman on the front cover of the game. And anyone who disagrees, even slightly, gets shamed as a sexist, misogynistic pig. And on the other end of the extreme, you have a group saying that it's an abomination that there is a female soldier at all, that it totally breaks immersion and ruins the game, which is equally as absurd. I want to tackle this from two angles. First is historical accuracy, and then after that will be historical fiction. It seems that some facets of modern culture are forgetting that you can't just pretend history isn't how it was just because you aren't a fan of it. Just like you can't make free speech illegal because your feelings get hurt when someone doesn't agree with you. I mean, you can, and we basically are at certain points, and in specific places especially, but it's one of the most fundamentally dangerous acts in existence. When you wash over history with an artificial brush, you doom yourselves and future generations to regress and default to pre-experienced mistakes. There are reasons why historically accurate stories have a place in gaming, and are so important elsewhere in life as well, now and forever. History is taught to all children who progress through our education system, and that should never, ever be altered or changed, regardless of how badly historical events diverge from picture-perfect, politically correct garbage. Specifically in gaming, a historically accurate story about a war or event may utilize real human names, real actions or narratives and messages, and for example, in such a case, to just write in a female squad member because obviously they should be represented, even if that squad was not composed in such a way, is offensive, unwanted, and an unequivocal disservice to the real characters who gave their lives or otherwise struggled during the unfolding of portrayed events. When a game is marketed and sold as a historically accurate representation of literal events, people, places, and deeds, there is no place for inclusion. As harsh as that sounds, if the game targets an audience with the expressly outlined goal of telling a legitimate story that adheres to various specifications regarding its setting, characters, narrative, and other gameplay features, but then holds up an artificial, historically inaccurate list of characters to include simply to pacify the outspoken and obnoxious social justice warrior crowd, they should be called out for that. You don't see me back down from that responsibility, ever. However, and this is a big however, Battlefield 5 is not one of those games, and this is not one of those times. Now it's time to discuss historical fiction. A great deal of the historical games on the market today are, in fact, in part, fiction. Obviously, they take incremental liberties when constructing world aesthetics, etc., because they can't literally look back in time and see exactly what the landscape looked like in the tree position, etc. That's obvious. But, I mean beyond that, most games pick a time or a place and layer in constructed narratives, mechanics, and features, all to enhance the experience of the players. Let's put it this way, a lot of history is honestly really boring. A to-the-letter representation of actual medieval society would mean far less action, a much slower pace, and probably dying of like diarrhea at age 12 or something similar. Looking at Battlefield 5, and the earlier Battlefield games by the way for that matter, through this lens, we start to see that it lines up pretty well. The giant Zeppelin thing with all the heavy guns that floats in during large Battlefield 1 missions, yeah, that didn't exist in real life, at least not in that capacity. The special classes, the Iron Man style armor that soaks up like 500 bullets and dishes devastation all at the same time, yeah, that wasn't really a thing, but it's fun, so they included it. The new Battlefield 5 trailer shows a multitude of things which are clearly historical fiction. They are also fiction in the sense that they claim it's gameplay, and it's so obviously and painfully not literal hands-on controls gameplay, but whatever, we'll gloss over that for now. The game obviously takes the stance of a heightened action, fast-paced World War II setting, but not a setting in the sense of education, and they truly make no pretense, that I have seen at all in the past, that the game will be or ever has adhered to literal historical accuracy. Thus my firm stance that the game comfortably tackles its narrative from the perspective of historical fiction. Another thing to touch on, though this is a tired and often misused argument by those trying to shame anyone who is not swooning over the fact that they so prominently featured a woman in the trailer, there is still some elements of truth to it, though, even if it's tired and misused. The argument is that there were indeed women who served on the front lines during World War II. This is a very important distinction, by the way. The front lines. There were women in a variety of military branches, but spouting stats about that when someone says that isn't true, that there would have been a woman armed to the teeth clearing buildings in a hostile town or something similar, it's just plain ignorant to spout the wrong stats. And it just serves to destroy the credibility that the argument actually could have. But anyways, back to my point. There were not women on the front lines in American forces or in many other national militaries, but in some militaries, there actually were. Russia, for one, is a great example, and this isn't going to turn into some history lesson or lecture, so I'll cut it there. But if you want to know more, it's an extremely easy research topic. Just search Soviet women in World War II. They were snipers, pilots, gunners, you name it. So Battlefield 5, which makes no pretense about conforming to literal historical data, has taken liberties to provide inclusion in a time where the industry is constantly under fire for not doing enough of that, in an effort, obviously, to help build up the reception of their game. It's EA after all. I don't see anything horrifically wrong with that. I mean, it's a little bit pandery, or however you want to call it, but I don't see why that's an outrage topic. It really doesn't deserve that. If they do it poorly and they sacrifice the narrative for it, then yes, call them out, obviously. If they start advertising their game on the spectrum of historical accuracy in a disingenuous way, yes, that's trash, call them out. But if they take liberties, craft a positive experience, and don't jerk the audience around along the way, there really should not be a problem here. If you are someone posting up on social media with a screenshot of the cover of the game and some antagonistic text about how you should unfollow me if you have a problem with it because it's pioneering the right format for games, like holy hell, just shut up. But likewise, if you come to this video seeking confirmation of a pre-existing belief that Battlefield 5 is terrible because of their creative decision to feature a female lead in their marketing and their cover artwork, I'm not going to agree with you. If we really want to talk about the worst thing about Battlefield 5, how do we even land on women as a topic? It's a title by EA. What's the worst thing about Battlefield 5? Not its cover art, that's for sure. There is a time and a place for calling out the social justice warrior, politically correct, over-the-top, zealous crap. I'm all for it when that time comes, but I firmly believe this is not one of those cases, and it's definitely not one of those times. People are on a hair trigger nowadays. So much meaningless outrage, so much drama, so many snowflakes biting at the chain to find the next person to ridicule or shame, or the next target for a social media hate campaign to ruin someone's life under the pretense of ending hate, quote unquote, while wrecking someone's life. But it's okay because they deserve it. They said offensive things, so they no longer deserve the rights that we're yelling about everyone deserving. Except anyone who disagrees with us. Everyone except them. They don't deserve those rights. Sometimes you just have to be as reasonable as possible. And it sounds rich coming from me right now. I know it's yet another video about a political topic, and I sound anything except reasonable at times. But in this instance, you gotta just let the brats on social media rant and rave, and judge a game on its merits, its monetization, and its gameplay. I'll stop it there. It got a little bit preachy, but I'm kind of okay with it. Also, I am going to continue forward with a new t-shirt. The last version of this started as a complete joke, but people loved it, and it ended up my best-selling piece of merchandise ever on the channel, I think. So this is a new one right here. The Piss Off Everyone shirt. If you want the previous version, it's still available for a very short, limited time. This one is up now and will be around for quite a while, I think. And if people really like them yet again, I might even continue with like a series of videos and designs called like the Little Red Stick Figure or something like that along those lines. Who knows? As always, check out the other links down below. There are a lot of ways to get involved with Upper Echelon, from our Facebook group to the gaming forums, my Twitch streams as well. But that's really it. I'll wrap it up there. Thank you for watching, and have a nice night.